It's showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
What is up, everybody? Let me bring the microphone a little bit closer. What is up, everybody? It's the pre-party. Woo! Bells, whistles, ring, ring, ring. This is your one-stop shop to get pumped up right before NWA Power. Each and every week, we come to you live Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific, to talk National Wrestling Alliance. This is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the NWA and the United Wrestling Network. My name is J. Cal, and I am your host, your gracious, humbled host. And I'm here to say what is up to all of you, the NWA fam. Tonight, woo, doggy, it looks like we got a good card tonight. If they present all of the matches, if they have all of the matches, if all of the matches happen, ladies and gentlemen, this is it's been kind of a week, right? Because the NWA disappointed me tremendously last week. If you guys watched the Alliance Guys podcast, you'll see that we were taken aback. We were taken back by a lack of the main event. We were taken back by the weird way that Jax Dane ended up forfeiting the match. I mean, I don't even exactly know what's happening. But I think the NWA is going to make it right to us. I think they're going to make it right. I think the NWA is going to make things right. We'll see tonight, right? We're going to see tonight. We're going to see if the NWA is going to make things right. All of a sudden, one of my screens just went out, so I hope you guys could still see me on Twitch. I'm not sure if you do. Real quick, let's say what's up to everybody in the house that have joined us tonight. I see Ryan Romano, Jimmy LB, Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump, Lamb's in the house. Matthew Underwood is in the house. Terry McDermott, NWA Gold, Dave Scooby, Willie Bowen. Yes, y'all. Thank you for checking us out each and every week and making this part of your NWA viewing habits. Again, we're here to talk NWA. We're here to talk and promote a brand that we love, that I love. And it's been hard the last few weeks, but hey, we just got a new follow. Ben Haberlin has just joined the party. Welcome to the party, pal. It's been hard to kind of get behind this product in this last season. It's been difficult, but I'm really feeling like things are going to start picking up. PWZ Podcast is in the house. Thank you for checking it out. Pro Wrestle Zone. They, although we're not officially related, I like to think of them as family. So if you like what we put out here, you should check out the Pro Wrestling Zone podcast with the Professor, Rick Del Santo. You can check them out on Spotify, really all the podcasting places. Lamb says, J. Cal, the man who promotes the NWA better than the NWA does on social media. I mean, that might be true. Hey, Heaves is in the house. Welcome to the show. Again, this is so much fun when you guys pile in here and we talk about pro wrestling. We pontificate about pro wrestling together. And tonight, this card, I like it, guys. I really feel like the NWA said, yes, we heard you. We heard you last week. I mean, I'm going to go as far as to say that if you go check out Fight TV right now, they have officially put up underneath the card subject to change. So things might change, things might be different. Fiona's in the house. What's up, girl? But I'm expecting a good card tonight. First and foremost, we're going to see maybe the best champion in the NWA right now. Maybe the TV title. Scott Steiner just said that I should read his last comment. Billy Corgan offered me 6 figures to come to the NWA and work a program with all this. I think I might accept it. Scott Steiner returning to the National Wrestling Alliance. You heard it here first. But the television title, you know, it's kind of funny how much that looks like the background, doesn't it? Whew, it's so pretty. Whew, I love the TV title. The TV title currently held by the Pope, Elijah Burke. Will be defending that title against Matt Cross in a match that I am so excited for. Yeah, Lamb, that's a new belt. That was a gift. Believe it or not, that's a gift. I've never paid for a title belt. I've got some pretty amazing friends. I've been given the British Commonwealth Championship. I've been given 10 pounds of gold. And now I have a TV title. Lamb says that's better than the one on Primetime Live. Hey, I know the Pope doesn't watch this podcast, but anytime the Pope wants to use that belt in a match, I'll be more than happy to let him borrow it. And Scott Steiner, that was a gift. Sean Mega's in the house. Welcome, Sean. And that TV title match might be the biggest match I've been looking forward to in quite some time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every title match that the Pope has had has been great. I mean, his match with Tom Latimer, solid. Ended in a 10-minute time limit draw, but still, Tom Latimer is one of the most underutilized guys on the roster. So if you can go toe-to-toe with Tom and walk out still intact with your title, kudos. The match with Tyrus, wasn't a huge fan of. Just wasn't. The match with Fred Rosser, again, another thumbs up. I really enjoyed that match. And now tonight we're going to get Matt Cross, who I really think is probably one of the best talents on the NWA. As I wrote about on the primer, if you guys visit alliance-wrestling.com, and that primer I talked about how Matt Cross is challenged for the World's Heavyweight Championship and came up short. He's challenged for the national title against Willie Mack back in 2019, came up short. He challenged Ricky Starks for the TV title in 2020 and came up short. So now it's 2021. He's been trying to capture an NWA title for 4 years. Will this be the moment? Will this be the opportunity? Will this be the time that Matt Cross walks away with this? Well, it's not this one, but you know, this one's just as good. I don't know. The Pope is an interesting character. The Pope has all the means to be the next World's Heavyweight Champion. He's got the swagger. He can cut the promos. I could see him on Good Morning America just like I could see Nick Aldis. I could see him being on TV. I really feel like Nick Aldis and the Pope kind of are a mirror image of each other. And I don't mean that in a negative. I just mean that there's so much similarities between the two in the way that they can wrestle, the way that they cut promos. And I don't think there's anyone on the roster right now who's better at cutting a promo than Elijah Burke. But I could also see him dropping the belt tonight to Matt Cross because, let's face it, Matt Cross is a super athlete. So this match I'm really looking forward to. I know it'll be the opening bout, but man, I'm really excited about that. So now let me see some of your comments because I've been running on for a bit and you guys have been talking. So let's check it out. Willie Bowen says, yeah, Scott Steiner, former NWA World Tag Team Champion with his brother Rick. Remember, Scott Steiner actually appeared on a couple episodes of Power, and he was at the NWA Hard Times pay-per-view, challenged Aaron Stevens for the NWA National Championship, just came up short. Stevens was able to retain, but let's not sleep on Big Papa Pump. I know he's had some health issues. It would be interesting to see if he were to come back, but quite frankly, I think they're more focused on a new breed, right? Like Chris Adonis, who has been wrestling what seems like forever. I mean, Jimmy LB and I used to watch him wrestle at the UPW back in the day in Santa Ana, California. And back then, I mean, he was a young man. He was like 17 years old. And that was like 20 years ago. So this gentleman is, your national champion, but he's a young buck in terms of his age. I mean, 37 in the NWA is not really all that old. All right, more of your comments. Tyrus is a bum Willie. We know that. Dalen, hey, welcome back to the show, Dalen. Glad to see you back. He thinks the Pope has probably been the most consistent wrestler of the series. Absolutely, Dalen. 100% agree. There's no one more consistent than the Pope. And I mean, even in the worst case scenarios, as match with Tyrus, I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but Tyrus isn't good. And even putting Pope in that match made it bearable. I'm not going to say it was good just because the Pope was in it, but it made it bearable. Scott Steiner says, Trevor Murdoch is the only man I know that can strap a bucket of front. Nope, we're not going to say that, Scott. That's what got Jim Cornette fired. Let's see. Sean Vega says, Matt Cross is more believable babyface than Trevor Murdoch. I agree with you on that, Sean. Absolutely. Dalen says, Tyrus and Adonis have grown on me as heels too. Dalen, I'll give you Adonis, but I'm not feeling Tyrus at all. I mean, I feel like they could do so much more with Tyrus. They just are choosing not to. They just absolutely choose not to. And, again, all this took place over the course of 2 or 3 days. We're talking about a show that was taped back in March. So they didn't really get feedback right away. And they could only go by what they felt at the time. And if they felt like it worked at the time, they were wrong. They were wrong. And as they know now that it doesn't work. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that happens. Terry McDermott says, I would like to see the Pope and Cross in a series of matches. A best of 7. Terry, you're onto something. I'm all about it. Matthew Underwood says, Tyrus would be better in the booth. They need a change in the booth. Tyrus has some mileage. There's still some things they could do with him. Putting him in the announce booth isn't the worst thing they could do for him. But it certainly, I'm sure he would still like to wrestle him. I'm assuming that's why he's there. Matthew Underwood said, bring Jim Cornette back. That bridge has been burned, Matt. Regardless of who was the one that let him go, who was the one that asked him to apologize, it doesn't matter. He associates the NWA as one collective, so he won't be back. And that's by his choice, by the way. I think he would have been a perfect fit for this NWA, but at the same time, I know that he never had to. He never wanted to. It was more of a favor, and those bridges have been burned, so I wouldn't expect that. Sean Mega says he's happy doing the podcast. Absolutely. Willie, you guys all kind of said the same thing. Matt Underwood said, also, shouldn't Kamille be appearing on AEW to continue with Rosa and build with Deeb? Now, Matt, that is a very interesting proposition. As of right now, as far as AEW goes, the NWA seriously is Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. We haven't seen any cross promotion between the two shows. We haven't seen an influx of NWA talents. Sure, Jennacide has appeared on both shows. Sure, Sky Blue has appeared on both shows. But they're representing Mission Pro more so than they're representing the NWA or AEW. So that is a little bit different. I don't necessarily disagree that some cross-promoting might do them some good, but it's just not what's happening right now. Dalen Knight says, so many talents from Circle Squared could have been brought back for the Power. I'm disappointed not to have seen some. Dalen, just remember, too, we still have that Battle Royal coming up, and there's supposed to be a 14-man Battle Royal. Now, you start adding up everyone on the roster, and we could do that in just a second. We'll do it right now. So if you're talking about guys who aren't champions, currently we have tag team champions in Kratos and Stevens, so they're out. Currently we have a national champion in Adonis, so he's out. So that leaves the War Kings, right? That leaves, and then the Pope is also out. Marche Rocket, that Fred Rosser, Tom Latimer, of course, Matt Cross, unless he wins tonight, Sal, Tim Storm, Trevor Murdoch. I mean, that's 9. Tyrus, that's 10. how many more guys are on the roster? I can't think of another 4 more guys. So I think we'll see some new faces on that. Mims and Boogie. Okay, so there's at least 2 more names. So, and then Odinson and Paro. Okay, so that's 14. So maybe they won't, but we'll see. I think you're still going to see some new people on there. Lamb says, depends on if AEW wants Kamille there. AEW gives a S about other promotions pay-per-view. Exactly. Like, the incentive for AEW to work with the NWA was strictly just to get Thunder Rosa on the program. Brian Rosas joined us last week on the Alliance Guys podcast on Thursday, and he wouldn't say anything but said that he didn't want to comment. Obviously, AEW is very happy with Thunder Rosa. The way that she's portrayed on the show shows you that. I imagine that when Thunder Rosa's contract is done with the NWA, she will be in AEW. But speaking of Thunder Rosa, like tonight, that's something that's kind of a question mark, because on social media, it's been a bit confusing. They advertised a match between her and Jennacide, but then on Fight TV, it suggests that the match is going to be against Kamille with those stipulations. So I don't know what match we're going to get. Maybe it'll be an amalgamation of both. Maybe Kamille will come out and they'll start the match, and then perhaps maybe Kamille will say, no, not now. We'll save it for the pay-per-view, and Jennacide will wrestle. I don't know. That's just me thinking outside of the box, but I'm not sure what matchup we're going to get tonight. I think either one of them will be really good. As long as we get a match. Billy, as long as we get a match. Nick Aldis, as long as we get a match. I think it'll be fine. Let's see. Phil Talk Sports. Hey, welcome to the show, Phil. I'd be pretty pumped to see Matt Cross win the TV championship tonight. I mean, look, I love the Pope, but I also really like Matt Cross too, so I'm kind of at that crossroads, no pun intended. But I certainly would like to see the Pope be the first man to go to that best of 7, the Lucky 7 series, and get a match with Aldis the old-fashioned way by earning it. When that's over, I would love to see Matt Cross sneak in there and become the next TV champion, but we'll see how that works out. I mean, initially the whole plan was to do a tournament once that Lucky 7 happens, and it would certainly give the NWA an opportunity to put some guys, shuffle some places. You know, if the Pope, you know, gets that Lucky 7 and gets to challenge Aldis, that gives you so much creativity where you could put Matt Cross in a position of power. You could put maybe Paro in that tournament, maybe Jack Stain, maybe Crimson, hell, maybe Tom Latimer. You give it so many options without taking any heat off of Elijah Burke. I think that's what the plan is, although I don't know for sure that's what they're going to do. Sean Mega says Rosa is halfway out the door. The women's division might be dead by 2022. Sean, I would have tended to agreed with you about a month ago, but with the fact that Jazz is going to be coming to the NWA to work as an agent, and the relationship that seemingly exists between Mission Pro Wrestling and the NWA. I know that's Thunder Rosa's promotion, but you know, even if she's not there, I'm sure she can still advocate to have her female talents appear. And look, if Jennacide, Sky Blue, and Alexia Graciana haven't impressed you yet, I don't think that there's any women out there that will impress you. So I'm still hopeful that you'll see some quality women's wrestling with or without Thunder Rosa on the roster. Matthew Underwood says, thoughts on Marquez's new promotion from Atlanta with Zicky Dice. I'm super excited about it. I'm a big Dave Marquez guy. I have been for damn near 20 years. Dave Marquez and I actually have a pretty good relationship. I consider him a friend. He gets family Christmas cards every year. Dave knows how to do wrestling. I know that might be contrary to some people's opinions. Primetime Live was probably the best show he ever produced. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood has been on the air for now, I think like 12 years. And before that, he was running small to medium-sized arenas throughout the U.S. I have full capabilities. I have full belief in what Dave can do. And I think he's going to put on a hell of a show. And I think the people who are really going to benefit this are the fans who live in Atlanta, because once they can get to the TV tapings for both NWA and Championship Wrestling from Atlanta, I think they're going to win, because you're going to have the best of both worlds. You know, this isn't like AEW versus WWE. You don't have to pick one. You could literally have both. And I think that's pretty freaking cool. Heap says, I'd love to see Kamille pop up on AEW just to jump Rosa deep in that title match on the pay-per-view on Sunday. I mean, that'd be pretty awesome, right? I mean, that would be pretty cool. I would pop for that. Scott Steiner says, the Pope is the only man that I'd feel should be Aldous in the NWA, at least on the current roster. You know, Scotty, I tend to agree with you, brother. I don't think anyone yet has really stepped up in the way that the Pope has. I mean, you have to remember, he came onto the scene in season 2, and he was looking for his fall Hossman. He wasn't even competing in the ring. He was more of a manager. And the time away during COVID-19, he had that match with Watts where they teamed up against Iffy and Zicky Dice. It was a good tag team match. He looked good. He looked crisp. He had that match with Zicky Dice. It was all over the place, but he won the title. His promos are what's going to sell the matches. He's a great promo guy, and I believe wholeheartedly that him and Aldous are set for a showdown. And if you watched last week on the show, I mean, he's even hinting at it. He's got the shirt made up. A dream match, Aldous versus the Pope, world champion versus TV champion. That match needs to happen. The NWA failed to make the dream money match last year, 2 years ago with excuse me, with Eli Drake, L.A. Knight, and Nick Aldis. They can't afford to make the same mistake twice. Sean Mega, not a big fan of Zicky Dice or Dave Marquez. That's okay. Scott Steiner says, the Pope is the only wrestler I feel should beat Nick. You said that. You already said that. Sean Mega says, I like Mims and Slice. Slice Boogie. Yeah. Boogie, I mean, if he hasn't impressed you yet, he should. He's a 2019 SoCal Uncensored Rookie of the Year award. That award has been held by guys like, I don't know, Samoa Joe, guys like, I don't know, Brody King, B-Boy. I mean, that award, TJ Perkins, that award has been so kind of, well, I was about to say it's a predictor of success, but so many of the guys that have won the award are no longer in the business, so you never really know. It's a crapshoot. Phil says, I'd say by the next taping we'll have some sort of crowd. Phil, I don't think it'll be June, but I certainly believe whichever taping is next, we'll definitely have a crowd. I can't see them not having a crowd plus then. Willie Bowen said, Sean, you forgot about Mission Pro, plus Ruby Ray's, Viperous, maybe the return of Allison Kay. And Willie Bowen, I mean, that's a lot of speculation, right? Because as of right now, there is no direct line between Viperous, Ruby Ray's, or Allison Kay to the NWA. Hopefully. I mean, I'm a big Ruby Ray's fan. I think she's great. I think she's a totally underutilized talent who could certainly bring something to the table if the NWA brought her in, but you have to just wait for that to happen. You know, it's not gonna, hasn't just happened. Steiner says, I like Mims because his hometown is where I was born, Clarksville, Tennessee. There you go. PWZ Podcast says, I'd hope they bring in some new people. It's about time. I really feel like you're going to see an influx of talent. A lot of these guys are coming off of their, the 30 to 90 day no complete cause. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some new faces. Especially Enzo Amore has been very vocal about how much he likes the product. I don't know if that's leading to something. I don't know if that means anything, but I would imagine you're going to see something. You're going to see an influx of some talent. I'm not saying the show's going to look radically different, but I think you'll see some new faces. Then DKM says, I'm sure Nicole canceled another one. DKM, what do you mean by that? Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Chris Drummond says, I don't want Kamille on AEW. She can't wrestle. I beg to differ, my friend. I know she's not the seasoned veteran that Serena Deep is, but she certainly can go. And what she lacks in technique, she makes up for in finesse. I mean, who in wrestling right now is bigger than, than Kamille? And I mean in terms of size and strength. I know Jennacide is close, but again, I don't think anyone has the size and strength that Kamille has currently. Pope versus Aldis is title versus title, winner takes all. Book it, Billy. I don't want title versus title just because I don't want to muck up the title situation. The 10 pounds of gold is more gold than anyone ever needs. That's the paramount, the pinnacle. That is the top, the zenith of professional wrestling. I don't need the world's heavyweight champion to hold multiple titles. Matthew Underwood says, the women's title is on AEW right now. Kamille's the number one contender, needs to be built. I agree with that. She does. She just needs opportunity. She needs to grow. She needs to keep facing people like Jennacide and Skylar Blue and Alexia Graciana, and even to a lesser extent, girls like Melina and Taryn Terrell. I think getting that repetition, just wrestling, that's how you get better. It's not, oh, I wrestle 1 week or I wrestle 4 days and then take the next 6 months off. No one's going to get better that way. Nobody. I mean, take into consideration, our world's heavyweight champion hasn't defended the title since March 21st. He hasn't even been in the ring since, the first episode of Power? I mean, to say that he's going to have a little bit of ring rest when he returns, I know he's a proud dude. I know he's in the gym. I know he's, grinding and pumping away. But honestly, if you're not out there wrestling day in and day out, you are going to get rusty. If my boy Kevin Frazier was on right now, he would tell you that wrestling is a game of repetition. You need to be in the ring. So I'm not sold on anybody who only wrestles, part-time. And unfortunately, the NWA is a part-time wrestling promotion right now. Yeah, I said it. I'm so not waiting for that predictable Aldis interview on Strictly Business, and it masters in or not. Aldis wobbles even on his own angle. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of tired of Aldis's back and forth. They need to freshen it up. Maybe Billy Corgan does something tonight to kind of neutralize the dealer, but I can't really even tell you. Mickie James to the NWA. I mean, that'd be great, and they've already kind of made overtures of it where Mickie is talking to, sending messages to Mae Valentine about looking at her man. I mean, they're certainly building to something, but it could just be, tongue-in-cheek on Twitter anyways. Habe says, the Mission Pro option makes the women's division far deeper than AK, Marty, Rose, and Vox. 100%, Hebes, 100%. You are so correct. That Mission Pro roster is growing. It's good. And adding to that, remember, Jazz, her connection to the Dog Pound Pro Wrestling, the Dog Pound Dojo, Pro Wrestling Dojo. I mean, she's literally training talents that, hey, Billy Corgan, I have these people who look good and ready for TV. Bring them in. It's as simple as that. Chris says, so do vignettes. Kamille bring nothing to the table. Most of the AEW roster would outclass her. I mean, you're not wrong, Chris. There's a lot of super talented women in AEW, but I'm just saying that I'm not convinced that Kamille isn't ready for that. Willie Bowen says he wishes that Jessica Havoc, Rosemary, and Jordan Grace were on the NWA Power roster. I mean, I think they're all happy where they're at right now. They're all getting paychecks, so I'm sure they're happy where they're at. Chris Drummond says Kamille coming to AEW would confuse people as they don't know who she is. Sure, that's why if she comes in and attacks Serena Deeb, you're creating an angle. She wasn't known the first time she appeared in the NWA either. It's just how you create someone, how you build them. It's all storyline. If Kamille comes out of the audience and attacks Serena Deeb and puts the beat down on her, they're going to be like, who the hell is that? And someone might say, hey, that's the top number one contender from the NWA. What are they doing here? It's Strictly Business. Oh, Jesus, I just did that. Sorry. Pope is the reverse MVP. MVP came back to WWE and wrestled, and now he's a manager. Good call, Scott Steiner. Sean Mega disagrees with Chris. Kamille has an aura that most of them don't have. I agree with that. Matthew Underwood says the Hawk Ari father-son tag team would be great. I think that they're coming. I can't tell you for sure. I've heard a lot of speculation. I think that Luke Hawk was there at the TV tapings. I think they should be there too. I think they would add some class to the tag team division. What's the difference between Jade Cargill and Kamille? That's a good question, Matt. I mean, I don't know. I've been watching Kamille since she broke into the ring for the NWA. I've been following her career ever since. I think she has a ton of upside. and a lot of potential. I think she's a superstar. What's the difference between her and Jade Cargill? I don't know. I'm not super familiar with Jade. Maybe someone in the audience could say who's better. Field Talk Sports says, what do we got to do to get Joe Henning in the NWA? Start a petition, a GoFundMe, Phil. I'll pitch in $20. Let's bring Joe Henning to the NWA. I'm for that. There's a lot of Kamille talk. That's good, though. You guys are discussing, and that's great because there's Discord, and that's absolutely phenomenal. Some of you want Kamille to go to AEW, some of you don't. And there's no real wrong answer. We'll see what happens. Matthew Underwood says, as long as the women's title is being defended on AEW, the number one contender should be on the show. Absolutely. I agree with that. Sean Mega says, what woman is a draw outside of WWE? Seriously. That's a good question. Some would argue Tessa Blanchard, but I don't know. Dalen Knight says, Eric Redbeard, too, would be a great addition. I think Eric Redbeard, for whatever reason, he's not being used, and I think that's a shame. He looked great in his one match at Primetime Live, and I think, honestly, he's a big dude that could bring a lot to the table. I'm all about him coming back, or coming to the NWA. Matthew Underwood says, Rosa is a draw in a normal world now. Absolutely. John Farmer, hey John, welcome to the show. He says, you wonder what Trevor Murdoch is doing while he's out. I mean, a quick search on Cage Match, he isn't doing much of anything. So it would be nice to see him return to the ring. I think he's the guy that's going to win that 14-man battle royal. I think they're kind of laying the foundation for that. I don't know who it's going to be though, and I'm not superly concerned with it because I really feel like that's what they're going to do with him. Chris Drummond says, I'm okay with Kamille working AEW Dark, but she has got to prove that she belongs on Dynamite. Hey, look, that's the thing, right? She's an NWA wrestler. Her priority should be the NWA. But if AEW wants to allow the NWA to use her, that'd be great for everyone. Ultimately, if it's Dark, if it's Dynamite, it doesn't matter. If all we're talking about right now is her going out and attacking Serena Deep, it doesn't matter if it's on Dark, Elevation, or Dynamite. It would be meaningful. It would get buzz. It would create some headlines. And that's all I'm going to go on with that. Sean Mega says, Rosa is being regulated to AEW YouTube shows at the moment. I thought she was scheduled for Dynamite. Maybe I'm wrong. Matthew Underwood says, Samoa Joe is the ideal addition and the authors of Pain with Paul Ellering. That might be... Look, if I'm allowed to fantasy book here, Samoa Joe would be my number one guy. I mean, he was a mentor to Nick Aldis. He certainly has a drawing power. His moveset is unmatched. His size is unmatched. His promo ability is unmatched. I mean, it just makes so much sense for the NWA, but that's the reason why it doesn't make sense for Samoa Joe, because he could take that skill set anywhere. AEW, he'll get paid. New Japan Pro Wrestling, he'll get paid. He can pretty much go anywhere in the world, especially when the COVID travel restrictions start dropping. So for Samoa Joe, it might be cool to see him as a layover talent. Maybe he even get a run with the 10 pounds of gold, but I'm not holding my breath for that. I don't see the benefit to the NWA to do that, just so that they could say Samoa Joe held the title. I mean, unless it's a pay-per-view in a small arena or large arena even, I don't see how you build that up to make it worth your time. Remember, this is still a business. They want the best talent they can get, but they also want to make sure that they can afford the title that they're getting. Field Talk Sports says Enzo on NWA would be next level. I really think it's a good fit. Enzo as a TV champion. I mean, Enzo versus Pope, Enzo versus Chris Adonis. I mean, there are some matches there that make some sense. The promos would be good. I'm not a huge Enzo fan. That's it. That's all I can say. DKM thinks that Nick Aldis is going to cancel another women's match, or cancel another match, meaning the women's match. That could happen. Willie Bowen says the WWE sucks. Take their women wrestlers like crap. Fair enough. Lamb says Nick Aldis doesn't wrestle on normal matches anymore, only big money matches. I mean, it's sad but true, right? Like, when has Nick Aldis defended the 10 pounds of gold? I had this discussion with our good friend of the show, Stan, and he was mentioning that, like, Aldis has still been on a roll, but in the last 2 years, Aldis has defended that title 13 times. In about a 8-month window, right? During the global pandemic, Thunder Rosa defended the Women's Championship 13 times. Nick Aldis has held that belt since October 21st, 2018, and has defended that title 13 times in the last 2 years. I'm not on board with that. Ever since Power has been around, I feel like Aldis has become lazy. I feel like he hasn't gone out of his way to be that traveling champion. Yes, I know he was supposed to go to Puerto Rico. Yes, I know he was supposed to wrestle in Ring of Honor. Yes, I know he was supposed to have some matches in the UK. The bottom line is none of that happened, and instead of making up for it, he just let it go. And I think that's garbage. I think as the NWA deserves better, the fans deserve better. And Nick Aldis, when we talk about all these accolades, you deserve better, my friend. You're one of the top premier athletes in the world. You are the world's heavyweight champion, and you're resting on your laurels. Your first reign as world's heavyweight champion was incredible, unmatched. And now you just wait for the next episode of Power? I mean, I'm so disappointed in Aldis as a world's heavyweight champion. His first run, incredible. The start to the second run, amazing. The last 2 years, dreadful. Dreadful. Terry says, I'm at the point where I'm ready for Nick to lose the title for a few months. Same. Absolutely same. Matthew Underwood says, Andrade is the other very obvious choice, especially given today's announcement. I didn't hear today's announcement, Matthew. You're going to have to clue me in on that. Lamb says, think the End versus War Kings will happen. We know how much the NWA loves real tag teams. I think so, man. I really think it's going to happen. As DKM alluded to, the only match that I could see them potentially not happening tonight is Kamille and Thunder Rosa, just because last week Strictly Business did the same exact thing. Strictly Business pulled out because Nick was throwing a temper tantrum. I could see them doing that again. I could see Kamille saying, no, this match is a pay-per-view match. We'll do this at the next pay-per-view. I could see that as well. And plus, the fact that both matches are advertised, both Thunder Rosa and Kamille, I could see that going either way. Excuse me, both matches advertised Kamille and Thunder Rosa and Thunder Rosa and Jennacide, so I could see it going either way. Matthew Underwood says, Royce Isaacs has been everywhere in the last month, tagging in Japan. Game Changer Wrestling, he's been absolutely killing it. He's gotten a big singles match coming up too. Matthew, let me just correct you. New Japan Strong isn't actually in Japan. It's in Port Hueneme, the same place they tape Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Now, that doesn't take any merit away from what he's doing, but there's a huge difference between being in the Tokyo Dome and being in Port Hueneme. Not that there's anything wrong with Port Hueneme, but that's not Japan. It's just not. Scott Steiner says, rest in peace, New Jack. I know some people love New Jack. I know some people didn't love New Jack. I'll say this, he was, at the end of the day, he was still a person. He's still a human being. He was still a life. And I never celebrate anybody passing away, especially when they have people who care about them, family, loved ones. So whatever your thoughts are on New Jack, at the end of the day, he was still a man. Dalen Knight says, can someone link an invite to the Discord? I can't do that right now, but if anyone has a link to the Discord, please feel free to put it in, whether it be This Is Pro Wrestling or the Alliance blog Discord. Anyone who's here and wants one, let me know, and I will put one in the comments section post-show. I just can't do it right now. Lamb says, we all know that Murdoch will win the Battle Royal, so not very excited about that at all. I mean, it seems like a foregone conclusion, Lamb. It's kind of hard to believe it'll be anyone else, but we'll see. Willie Bowen says, what about Ryback on the NWA Power roster? I mean, I'm not 100% against it, but I'm not exactly for it either. Heeb says, I'm not asking for Kamille to work AEW matches, just make a huge appearance. I mean, Heebs, I'm with you, brother. I think that's a smart booking decision for the NWA. If AEW would sign off on it, I mean, what damage does it do? You want to keep Red Velvet looking strong anyways. She's one of your growing talents, so I think it would be important for her to continue to have matches where she looks good. And if she loses a match because someone else interferes, then there's no problem with that, as far as I'm concerned. Sean Mega says the NWA and Ring of Honor should work together again. I think so too. You guys are commenting so fast. I'm so far behind. I'm trying to get caught up. The NWA is not it for Samoa Joe. His talent is way too high for NWA 2021 version. Lamb, unfortunately, you're right. Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit. There's so many comments. I want to catch up a little bit. Terry McDermott says, Enzo talks too much and we have enough talking at the moment. Sean Vega says, Aldis held the belt for over 1,200 days since 2017, getting tired of him. Lamb says, if you call out Nick Aldis to do more matches, you'll get blocked. Willie Bowen says, NWA Power should be more wrestling matches, less talking. Stan says, you know that things are about to pick up for Nick Aldis again. You know that as this pandemic goes away, that Aldis is about to defend the title a lot more. You know it. Stan, I don't know anything, because there are opportunities that Nick Aldis just flat out didn't take. Remember, the pandemic really affected the NWA from February, or I guess March, all the way to through December. But there were wrestling promotions that had popped up overnight and were defending and having shows. Nick Aldis did a wrestling expo in Texas, at North Richland Hills, the Independent Wrestling Expo. There was talents from all over the country. He had no problem going to that event. He went to 127 Wrestling in Tennessee, Grimsley, Tennessee, to face Flying Brian Jr. Had no problem with that. September 15th, he was out in Long Beach, California to wrestle on Primetime Live against Mike Bennett. He had no problem with that. So the pandemic is kind of a cop-out. It is. Because he had opportunities. He could have wrestled for SWE Fury. He could have went back to Primetime Live. He was booked to have 2 matches at Primetime Live, but he wasn't happy with the way the show was produced and quit. That's a shoot. I shouldn't have said that. Oh well. I'll get in trouble later. Shit. Where's the edit button? Last week, Dr. Stinson talked about how a mini Aldis Crusade is about to start up again soon. Look, Dr. Robert Stinson is a dear friend of mine, but he will be the first, well, maybe he won't, but he definitely loves himself some Nick Aldis. And I'm more of I don't want to hear how the baby was conceived. Just show me the baby. Just show me the baby. I don't need the details. I just want to see the baby. Nick Aldis, look, until he gets out there and starts defending the title again, he's not. He's a part-time pro wrestling champion. He's a weekend warrior. Oh, that's going to get me some heat. Please don't show that to Nick Aldis. Man, I'm going to get in so much trouble. Sean Mega, Nick's supposed to defend the title this summer at some convention. Yeah, I mean, he did the same thing last year. I hope he does, but let's be honest. He defended the title March 21st. He defended the title back in January. He's had as many defenses last year at this time as he does this year, too. I'm not holding my breath for a lot more title matches from him, and as long as NWA Power is his primary focus, which, I mean, I kind of get some of that, right? Like, I get where power needs to be a priority. But, I mean, I see tweets and Instagram posts where he's talking about being in the gym, which is also a part of the show, right? It's all part of it, but he says, this is what I do on Sundays. I power lift. Brother, you used to wrestle on Sundays. What happened? What happened? Stan says, what do you think, Jay? When last week Dr. Rob Stinson answered my question about Nick Aldis has defended the NWA title? I mean, look, Stan, I don't want to really get too much into this on this show, but yeah, so did Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce defended the title in Germany. Adam Pearce defended the title in Australia. Adam Pearce defended the title in Canada and Mexico. Aldis hasn't been to Mexico. Aldis hasn't been to Germany. Yes, he had more defenses in the UK, but their defenses in Australia are about the same. Aldis went to China, but remember, that was Dave Marquez. That wasn't Nick Aldis. You know, the thing about wrestling today versus wrestling 10 years ago is that Adam Pearce was the one that hustled and got all those matches. If we were in the middle of a global pandemic 10 years ago, Adam Pearce would still be out there working because he wasn't under somebody's contract. He wasn't getting paid to sit at home. If he didn't work, he didn't feed his family. So he would be out there hustling. He'd be out there working on the East Coast and on the West Coast. He'd take those matches in Mexico and Canada and Australia and the UK. I mean, obviously not during the global pandemic because you can't travel, but you get what I'm saying. Aldis has an opportunity to be wrestling. Like, yes, he's exclusive to the NWA, but that doesn't mean he can't be out there wrestling other matches, other shows, other weekends. He chooses not to. That's where I fail to recognize him as the great champion everyone says he is. He's not putting his money where his mouth is. He's sitting at home collecting a paycheck from Billy Corgan. If this would have been 10 years ago, he wouldn't be able to do that. He would have to be out there wrestling. He would have to be out there hustling. Or hell, he probably would have just taken a deal to go wrestle somewhere else. DKM says he wasn't defending very often before the pandemic. Exactly. DKM, like, seriously, once Power started, his willingness to travel seemed to decrease. And I get that too, right? I get that he's a family man. He wants to be home. But then that's fine. He can do that. He could do that. I don't feel like Aldis deserves the acclaim that everyone wants to throw on him. His first run as world champion is unforgettable. That should go. If you talk about Aldis, you talk to me about his first run. You talk to me about his second run, you're gonna lose me. It's nothing to brag about. It's very pedestrian. Lamb says, and Thunder Rosa defended the title 3 times in a week at one point. Absolutely. Matthew Underwood says, also, did you catch the shade Cody threw at Aldis when he didn't mention him among the greatest British wrestlers he's faced? Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know what Cody's thinking or doing, but he's never spoken highly of Aldis since their last match. They neglected to even mention the NWA World Championship when Cody was in AEW looking for the AEW World title. They completely left him out of the equation. They never even mentioned the NWA. I don't know if that had more to do with the NWA or if it had to do with Nick or whatever, but Cody has not been very positive about Aldis, and that's probably why you don't see Aldis in AEW. I mean, they brought in the women's champion Thunder Rosa, but they failed to bring in the world's heavyweight champion. That's interesting. Lamb says, and Thunder Rosa, oh yeah. Stan, look, we've talked about that so many times. I don't really want to talk about it much more on this show. But that was a byproduct of the NWA ownership and them efforting to screw the fans out of a title match, which they did. That belt should have been on Cabana. The NWA should have never blocked that match from happening. And Cabana should have had that title and then done the job ceremoniously down the road. Bruce Tharp didn't want that. There's a whole documentary about it you can watch called The 7 Levels of Hate. It goes into detail exactly why and what happened. It wasn't the NWA of yesteryear. It wasn't the NWA you wrote about. It was Bruce Tharp's NWA, and things were a lot more crotchety and really just not fair. Check it out. Matthew says, Omega Andrade for the AAA title. Andrade, to my knowledge, isn't even signed to AAA but CMLL. That's interesting. Okay. I mean, that would be kind of cool. I would like to see that. Omega is, I mean, he's an anomaly, right? Like, I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but the dude is literally convinced wrestling promotions around the world to put their world's title on him. New Japan Pro Wrestling, one of the most respected wrestling promotions in the world, put their title on Kenny Omega. I don't know why I had a brain fart right there. They put their belt on Kenny Omega because they trusted him, and he had a series of great matches before he left for AEW. AAA put their belt on Kenny Omega because he's a draw. He was a legit draw. Whether you like him or not, he's an athlete. He's a gifted athlete. I think he's an incredible performer, and I think he deserves a lot more respect than sometimes he's given. Fiona says, chat's been great tonight. Frustrating not be able to join in. Fiona, thank you for checking it out. We're about to end the stream anyways. Oh, no, we still got time. Started a little early today. We got time. We still got about 10 more minutes before we have to go. So what's up, Fiona? What's on your mind? Tell me what you're thinking. Let's talk some NWA. Get in here. Be a part of this. Terry says, once Thunder Rosa is gone, the NWA could be in trouble. You know what, Terry, I don't agree with that. I think the NWA has built itself up that if Thunder Rosa leaves, they have Kamille, they have the Pope, they have, they have things brewing. I don't think that if one piece of the puzzle leaves that the NWA will fall. And the reason why I think that is because being a fan of the National Wrestling Alliance for the last 20 years, every time that one piece that you think is holding up the entire NWA disappears, it still manages to find a way to survive. I mean, let's go back to 1993. The WCW withdraws from the NWA. Subsequently, so does New Japan Pro Wrestling. Yet the NWA still exists, right? They brought in Dan Severn to become world's heavyweight champion after Shane Douglas threw the belt down. They lost ECW, which was the biggest member at the time. They lost Dallas, which was Jim Crockett Promotions' last effort, Jim Jr. And they still, in this big disarray, ended up landing Dan the Beast Severn, who took the title all over the world. Got the title showcased in the WWE. Yeah, I know that he didn't defend it, but the belt was there. That caused so many people to call up to join the NWA that it almost revolutionized the whole brand. So after we thought it would be dead because the WCW left, we thought it would be dead because New Japan Pro Wrestling left. It came back. We thought it would be dead because Shane Douglas threw the belt on the ground. It came back. We thought it would be dead because TNA left. It came back. We thought it would be dead because Bruce Tharpe took ownership. It came back. We thought it would be dead because Billy Corgan bought it. And it's probably at its highest popularity it's been in years. Decades. So I don't ever feel like anyone could kill the NWA unless unless the owner of the business decides to shut it down. When Cody Rhodes won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, what other contenders did he wrestle? The only title defense that Cody had was against Willie Mack, and that was in Ring of Honor. Matt Underwood says, Lamb says, the Rosa family will be partying so hard when the contract is officially finished. Yeah, no joke. Matt Underwood says, also the Dawsons, Marty Bell. Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, they're all free of contract right now. Fiona says, my tuppence worth. I love Pope, and he is a great champ. But I've been a Matt Cross fan for a long time, and I think Kamille will make a perfect women's champion someday. Fiona, that's my TV title. Good friend sent me this belt in the mail, totally unexpected. Very happy with it. That's my trivia question. That's J. Cal's favorite title belt. I love the 10 pounds of gold, but the red leather TV title is my absolute favorite. Heeb says, give me what I want, NWA. A big meaty man tag match. We're supposed to get that tonight. A clean TV title match. We're supposed to get that tonight. Tyrus getting his heat back after the match. We're supposed to get that tonight. And Rosa to get out of that silly stip for the time being. You know, a friend of mine and I were talking, actually Big Chris Dog here in the chat, we're talking, and he made some points that I don't think Thunder Rosa is going to survive that match. I think Thunder Rosa is going to lose that number one contenders match. And we'll talk about that another day, but I don't feel like it's those stipulations I think were put in place for a reason. 75 JJ Edison says Kenny Omega will not lose anywhere before AEW first. With the Burke, the IWGP US champ, and Impact, and a AAA champ, shows all the major bookings are going to go through the Jacksonville office. You're right. What can you say? Terry even said you're right. Stan says, I never thought the NWA would be dead. I never thought that. Not after Douglas did or what Pierce and Cabana did. Never. I mean, I think you're chalking up what Pierce and Cabana did to what Douglas did, and I don't think those are on the same footing, but we've talked about that offline. Fiona says, also, yay to Aldous taking Sweet Charlotte around the world and defending it in every corner. Yes, again, if he can do that, if he can pull out of this funk, this 2-year, 13 title defense funk, and get out there and start traveling the world with the 10 pounds of gold, I will eat everything that I said. I will eat my words. I will say yes. That's the man that I've been waiting for. But as of right now, we haven't got that. Have we? Have we? Has a title been defended outside of Atlanta in the last 2 years? I mean, that's not accurate. Yes, it's been defended outside of Atlanta, but seriously, 13 defenses in 2 years, that's very disappointing. Matthew Underwood says, you should do a post-show too. This is pro wrestling, it's too kayfabe. Matthew, as much as I appreciate the sentiment, I love those fellas over at This Is Pro Wrestling. A long time ago, I had an agreement that I would never do anything to put them in a negative spot, and they've done the same for me. I love those guys. I hope you enjoy their show. If you want to hear our thoughts on the post show, you can check us out Thursdays, and that's 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, with the Alliance Guys podcast. We are here, same on YouTube or Twitch, and you'll hear our real opinions of what we thought. It's not kayfabe. It's nitty. It's gritty. It's with the former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion Kevin Frazier and wrestling historian and good friend of mine DKM, who was or was not in the chat just a few minutes ago. Fiona says she loves the May Valentine Mickey James Twitter shade. I hope to see Mickey next series. I mean, it's been fun. I don't know what the plan is for Mickey James. I think she is a quality talent wrestler. I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up in AEW. I wouldn't be surprised if she showed up in the NWA. She's one of these wrestlers who, if she chooses to, can probably continue to wrestle for a very long time. Matthew Underwood said Cody did mention him in an ESPN interview about a future match. I mean, I would love to see it. But I don't know. I haven't seen the article, so I can't speak to it. But I just don't feel like, if Cody wanted that match, he should have had it by now. He could have had it by now. Could have had it multiple times by now. The NWA World's Heavyweight Championship still has all the luster it had when Cody won it. It still has the same meaning that it had when Cody won it. In fact, it might even have more. And they chose not to bring it onto AEW programming, although they brought in the United States IWGP Championship from New Japan Pro Wrestling. They brought in the NWA Women's World Championship, the Burke. The Dynamite Championship, the TNT Championship, and of course the FTW title that Brian Cage was holding for a while. So I mean, if they wanted the 10 pounds of gold, they could have done it. They just haven't. Terry says at least defend the 10 pounds of gold once a month at least. Exactly, Terry. I don't think that's asking for too much. At one point during the first season of NWA Power, I had said I would love to see the 10 pounds of gold defended once a month on Power, and then that's it. You don't even get that now. Think about it. Willie Bowen says, I would rather watch Nick Aldis defend the 10 pounds of gold better than a house manure WWF, WWE. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want everyone to understand here, my problem with Nick Aldis isn't him as a person. It's him not defending the title. If he started wrestling again like he did in his first run as champion, I would have no complaints. He's amazing. He's an amazing wrestler. He's a great wrestler. He's talented. I mean, he cuts a great promo. He has a great look. Obviously, the man is invested not only in his education, but his physique, his abilities in the ring. There's a reason why Harley Race signed off on him. There's a reason why Dory Funk Jr. has signed off on him. He's great. But he's not defending the title anymore. He's a part-time wrestler. And the NWA has become a part-time wrestling promotion. And I can't tell you how great he is if he's not defending the title. Pure and simple. Get in the ring, showcase your stuff, and J-Cow will be your biggest supporter. Let me stress this too. I flew to China to see the man defend the title. You don't have to convince me he's a great wrestler. You have to convince me he's still motivated to be champion. And right now, you can't. Not the way he's working right now. Thank you to Lamb for saying that the Alliance blog is really nice. I appreciate that. We're running out of time, guys. Holy crap. It is 2:58 here on the West Coast, which means you're about 5 minutes away from NWA POWERRR. We didn't even get to all the matches, but real quick, I'll break it down. I think the War Kings are going to come out as your number one contenders for the NWA Tag Team Titles. I think it's going to be Jennacide wrestling against Thunder Rosa, and I think Thunder Rosa is going to go over. I think that Marche Rocket and Fred Rosser are going to look great as a tag team, but we're going to see finally some cohesion from the tag team champions, and they're going to get the victory. And of course, the man walking away with the television title is going to be none other than the Pope, because he's the champion and he's going to stay the champion. So if you like this podcast and you want some cool merch, visit alliance-wrestling.com and go to the merch store. Also, we'll be back on Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, to do a recap show of the show. And you can follow us on all social medias at the Alliance blog, and that's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Tumblr. And if you prefer to listen to our podcast as opposed to watch us, make sure you check out the Alliance blog on all your favorite podcasting places. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys have been terrific. Thank you so much for being here. Your support is very humbling to me. And if you enjoy the show, make sure you visit alliance-wrestling.com. Also, click, like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you at the matches. Have a good night now. Let's go NWA POWERRR.